According to my analytics, over 40% of you are not subscribed. This is deplorable. Please subscribe to make sure I have plenty of treats, and also plenty of toys. Thank you, kind viewers.
Halo Infinite recently had its flight, the first flight of many they're going to be doing up until the release of the game. I was streaming it for quite a bit over the weekend, checked out pretty much everything that it had to offer on stream, other than the PvP, which I did actually check out on my own. So I've pretty much played everything that they had on display. If you want to join me on Twitch at some point in the future, I do stream MCC, and I'm going to be streaming Infinite, my first run through, when I go through on Legendary Co-op, and plenty of multiplayer stuff as well. So go ahead and follow me. The link is down below. Come say hi, have a chat. Let's talk about Halo. It's fucking good fun meeting new people that are into, you know, the same shit that I am. But I thought, why not make a video talking about the pros, the cons, and some of the controversies, or one of the major controversies. We're going on to the fucking fruit with regards to Halo Infinite, because why not? It's pointless just playing this if nobody's going to give feedback, and I know people are giving feedback, but I'm saying, for me, it's pointless playing it if I don't give feedback, so I'm going to give some feedback, and we're going to talk about this. I did put out a tweet over on Twitter asking people what they thought, so if you want to go read through other people's thoughts that are within my community, go ahead and do that. I'll link that tweet down below, but I have to say, most things that they said will be in this video as well, so there's that. So I will say, first off, there are a couple things that I experienced while I was playing through this version of Halo Infinite, the build, while I was playing with it, that stood out to me as obvious bugs that are going to get fixed, that I thought I would address, because people would be like, oh, but what about this thing? And I just didn't mention it, so I thought, well, I'd include it at the start anyway. The first one is an audio bug that happened from time to time, where the sound effects would drop, and everything else would be absolutely normal, and then the voice audio would, like, stutter and be like, and it was a bit weird. There was also some visual flickering within the menus as well. And on top of that, when I went into the Academy mode, sometimes the gun would just have a seizure, I guess is how you would describe it. Those are things that are just generic bugs. Those are things that are going to be fixed when the full game is out. But I thought I'd mention it anyway, because they were issues I did encounter. The first thing I thought we'd get into is the pros, the things that I loved about Halo Infinite's flight, the stuff that I thought stood out as incredibly positive and promising and I really enjoyed. The first thing is the general flow, and I know that sounds incredibly vague, but let me go into it. The flow of these games is brilliant, and it's difficult to make a well-flowing FPS game, especially Halo. The fact that they've managed to do this is incredibly engaging for the players and incredibly rewarding as someone that's followed Halo for a long time. From when you load into the map to when the game ends, I just feel the flow of the game is done incredibly well. The way that you're moving around, the way the power weapons are introduced, the way that equipment is introduced, the way that you interact with other players around the map, it just feels like you're very engaged from the start to the finish, and you're always thrown straight back into it. You don't feel like you're taken out of it if you die. You feel like you can get right back in. I just think it's a very good gameplay loop that they've got. It's engaging gunplay, it's engaging melee combat, the way they incorporate all of the equipment and other power weapons are done. It's done increasingly well, which allows for players to be continuously engaged in the match that they're playing. I think it's just done very, very well. It feels like Halo, and that's one of the biggest takeaways and biggest positives, is it feels very much like a Halo game. I've seen a lot of people say that it's just Halo 5 with new paint, and I couldn't disagree more. You don't have the hovering in air when you aim down your sights. You don't have the insta-kill melee attacks when you're sprinting. You don't have the ridiculous ground pounds. None of that is in Halo Infinite, and it's all about making the most of your situation, finding those power weapons, finding that equipment, moving around the map effectively, using the movement that you have at your disposal to be as efficient as possible, and that's something Halo has always had. Which leads into one of my other points, which is the way sprint is handled. The fact that sprint in this game is not really a speed boost is brilliant, because Halo was never about sprint. I would say this is the best way that movement has been handled in the Halo franchise since Halo 3. Even better than Reach, in my opinion. Sprint in Reach was handled better than it was in 4 and 5, but it still acted as a speed boost that pretty much everybody used, and in doing so kind of broke the balancing of the game in some ways. In this game, however, sprint is not really a speed boost at all. It is very, very slightly, but as you can see in a bunch of different comparison videos, it doesn't really affect player movement very much at all. What it does is it allows for the player to engage in the slide mechanic, which, when used properly with sprint, positioning and the jump can get you some good speed, but it takes skill. It's not just the click of a button and then you're sprinting. It's a click of a button to sprint, but the sprint isn't the speed boost itself. It's how you use that sprint mechanic that then enhances your play in the game. And I think that is incredible because Halo has always been about player agency and about control and about creating your own advanced movement rather than it just being placed as part of the game. And I think that is the essence of Halo, and they've managed to build sprint around that, and I think that's absolutely incredible. Now, the bots are hit or miss, but for the most part, they were incredibly smart, especially the ODST guys and the Spartan ones later on that they introduced. They really do feel like other players. Sometimes they have some kinks to work through, like they can't figure out how to jump up on the side of a ledge, but other times they'll be teabagging your corpse. So, you know, it's really one way or the other with these guys, and I think that there's a lot to see here that could prove very important for the future of games like this and for Halo, and I'm interested to see how they incorporate this into the multiplayer in the future. Will we see bots in a special game mode potentially that is akin to Titanfall in a sense, where it's big team battle but there's bots thrown in the mix too? Is that something that could be possible for a Halo game? Who knows? Another thing that I'm looking forward to with regards to the bots is the campaign. How much of the bot AI from the multiplayer applies to the bot AI for the campaign? Because if legendary means smarter enemies, not just stronger enemies, then it could be increasingly challenging, but in a very rewarding and engaging way. So those are my overall positives. I mean, I think the game plays really well. I think it looks like Halo. It feels like Halo. And I cannot wait to get involved with the game when it eventually launches. It's going to be a ton of fun, and I'm going to be streaming the fuck out of it. Now, in terms of the negatives, in terms of the cons I got here, there are a few, but a lot of them are quite minor. But I want to go through them just to sort of list off the way I felt certain things could maybe be improved. One of the things I'm not a huge fan of is the Spartan chatter. You can turn it off, which is great, but what I would like is for the ability to switch it to the announcer. So when certain things are happening, maybe not have people in game like Spartans calling it out. The only reason is because the Spartans don't sound like Spartans all the time. They just kind of sound like guys. Like just, you know, normal guys. I don't know, to me it breaks my immersion. It's a small thing, but I would change that if I could. Now, one thing I really wasn't a fan of is the fact that colors are built into the battle pass. I understand that there can be unique colors built into the battle pass, unique armor coatings that are unique color styles and designs. That's really cool, but just having colors and some customization of those colors incorporated into the battle pass, I'm not a huge fan of. MCC is superior in every way when it comes to customizing the color of your Spartan. When you go in and you can choose the primary, secondary, and detail colors, it's a lot more Halo, and I don't really like the idea of having only preset colors, and not only that, but only preset colors that can be unlocked through the battle pass. It doesn't really give you this feel of customization. Let me choose the colors I want to do. Maybe I want a body of green with one of the arms being a different shade or black or something. Let me do that, and let me customize my Spartan the way that I want it, rather than having the colors being something I have to unlock by playing, and fill that up with more meaningful unlocks. That's just something that I wasn't a fan of. Now, with regards to the customization, I do think the UI could be moved around a little bit, and I think it's something they'll probably do as they continue developing the game, but it felt a little bit bulky, a little bit clunky to move around in. Just when you go into one of the sections that you want to customize, say it's helmet, and then you scroll through, and you're scrolling along this thing, and there's just image. Like, it would be nice if you had a list to pick from of like, you have an icon, you click on the icon for helmet, and then from that you choose from a list of things, and obviously you can see a visual representation next to it, rather than taking up a big square with an image of the thing that when you hover over it, you're going to see it on your Spartan anyway. I just think it would be a lot easier and quicker to navigate than what maybe looks quite visually appealing, but is a bit slower to go through as a player. Now, another issue I had, and I don't know whether this was just my version of the flight, but I didn't feel that sensitivity adjusted much. Now, I did change the dead zone, and that helped me a lot with my aim. However, I did feel that when I put my sensitivity all the way up to 10, it didn't feel like it increased very much. I was still taking a very long time to turn all the way around, and that could have been a glitch, or it could just be that the sensitivity needs tweaking in the game, but that was something I thought I would mention because it did bother me and it felt a little bit off. I don't know whether it was on my end or not, but worth mentioning nonetheless. Now, the plasma pistol looks like shit, and that needs to change. Okay, no, it doesn't look like shit, but it looks a bit more like Halo 5 for my liking. I would rather it was toned down a bit, made a bit more classic, rather than just sort of like this purple blob with hexagons on it. I'm not a fan of the Halo 5 looking plasma pistol, but again, that's very minor. But I would change it if I could. Now, the Pulse Carbine was a great weapon. However, I do feel the rate of fire, the speed, could maybe be a bit quicker. I do feel that from when you shoot to when the plasma pulse things do get to the enemy, it feels like it's already, like, they could have dodged that. It's moving way too slowly. So I feel to balance it better would be to either make the gun shoot faster or make it stronger. Now, obviously, it depends which one, and that could cause some balance issues all in itself, but I just felt that whenever I would never use the weapon, because I felt like, well, I could use this, or I could just use my assault rifle, which is more accurate and faster, and equally, if not more powerful. It kind of feels not worth my time to pick that up off the wall, so I would adjust that in some way to just make it a bit more worth my time to use. And with regards to Covenant weapons, the Needler is great, but I would just change the sound effects. I just feel the sound feels like you're shooting pellets rather than shooting these purple crystals that in other Halo games would make this like shining sort of clean sound. What does that make sense? You know what I mean? It's like this metallic alien crystal noise that they used to make, whereas it just kind of feels like you're pinging pellets at someone in Infinite, and I would adjust that just because. And the final thing that I think was a negative was the progression system and the leveling. Not that in of itself, but I was a bit confused as to whether this applied just to the flight or not. But it didn't feel like I had a level. It didn't feel like I was leveling up to, you know, Sergeant, Lieutenant, the way that you would do in older Halo games, or even just a number to represent that. It felt like my XP gain, it progressed my Battle Pass unlocks, and that was cool, but it didn't actually have, there was no level to represent how far I'd got, how much time I put in, and what level I was in the game. I don't know whether that is just a flight thing, or whether that will be changed in the full game, or whether it carries over. I don't know, but it was something I thought I'd bring up, because one of the things I love about Halo is leveling up and having that level and that badge to show, you know, how much time I've put in, how much XP I've done, how good I am at the game. It's nice to have that there, you know? So to have some sort of symbol and level to represent your progression, I think is a necessary thing to have. And if that's not something that we're going to put in the game, then I would definitely recommend doing it, because I think that that's something that I definitely missed when playing this flight. Although, like I said, it could just be a flight thing. They didn't need to have levels in, because it's not really relevant, so that's totally fine if that's the case, but I thought I'd bring it up nonetheless. Now, of course, we can't do this without talking about the fruit, which has been brought up on Twitter with this clip. Now, don't get me wrong, I don't think it's unreasonable to talk about this. I don't think it's unreasonable to make this comment. I don't. I think that it's a valid criticism in some ways. I also don't care about it either. It doesn't actually affect my experience with Halo Infinite. I'm still going to have just as much fun as I would do. But I think it's a valid criticism to make that, you know, this game should have those little things down. It should do. I feel like a lot of games should. It doesn't matter really that much, but I feel like it's not necessarily an invalid criticism. If Halo Infinite comes out and the fruit isn't fixed and it doesn't work like it does in Modern Warfare or whatever game it was comparing to, then I'm not going to give a shit. But I don't think that it's wrong for people to bring it up, to be like, well, look at this other FPS, look at the detail in the environment, look at the way they've built this game. Not only is it really satisfying to play, but it's got this level of polish that you don't see in a lot of games. Compare it to Infinite, where, yeah, it's fun to play, but it doesn't have that same level of polish. And don't get me wrong, it's an early build of the game. The build itself is 2 months old, and the game is not coming out until the end of this year. So let's not start judging things like that just yet. If when the game comes out, it's still got this, and the fruit isn't as detailed, then fair enough, make those criticisms. I personally won't, because I don't give a shit, but I understand people do, and people can, and that can be a gripe for some people. So I don't think it's necessarily invalid to criticize that, but I do think it's unfair at this stage because the game isn't out yet. So that's just my take on it. But let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. Is there something I didn't talk about? Let me know if there's some stuff in the game that you really don't like or really love that I just didn't talk about. Or let me know your thoughts on the stuff that I did talk about. I'd appreciate your input as well. It's interesting to have these conversations. And like I said, head over to my Twitch, follow me, and join me for a stream sometime. Let's chat, let's talk. It's good fun. I'm trying to get into streaming quite a bit more, so I'd appreciate anyone that wants to, heading over there. I love having a chat. Anyway, that's it for this video. I'll see you all soon. Hopefully, I'll be bringing quickfire topics back to this channel. If you want to get involved in that, you can over on my Twitter when I post a tweet asking for topics, as well as wish lists. I want to do some wish lists, and again, like with the quickfire topics, I request those over on my Twitter. So if you want to get involved in quickfire topics or wish lists, my Twitter is the place to be. The link is down below. And that's it for this video. Thank you very much for joining me, and I will see you all soon for something new. Catch you later, everybody. Bye-bye.